doing those workouts like that so often, you are limiting yourself on the total amount of volume that you could be able to do in that session if you just took a few reps off.
Absolutely.
It makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And that's what it really is. So being smart about that. And but you tell that to a 21-year-old kid who all they know is, I'm going to bro out and be hardcore and scream and yell, pump my chest. It's a very hard thing. It's a very hard sell. I hope that it does change, and it gets easier. But it's no longer, honestly, at that point, it's no longer about how much science do you know or how effective you are as a communicator. Well, I think it's more about the communication. It's more about how can you disarm somebody and get through their ego without like just tearing them down and being a dick. It takes a very, very particular skill set of conversational skills and communication skills to be able to help somebody in that aspect. And that's what I've had to learn a lot through my years of teaching or even coaching when I was a PT as well, is 99% of that is just communication and helping somebody actually be able to get over the line and understand and apply what you're doing and enjoy it. Not just because you got a gun to their head saying you got to fucking do this or not. It takes, a different kind of skill set we don't really see much.
Why have you discontinued using barbells on a lot of exercises?
Bang, just straight to it. For me, a big part of his preference, and a big part of his it's also like the knowledge around like, is there something that could be a bit more comfortable from maybe your wrist or shoulder, elbow position, but having more freely moving parts in like a handle or whatever. That's why I prefer to use them over barbells. Like if I'm doing a deadlift, I'm probably still going to use a barbell. Like that's what I'm going to use. I use a straight bar for a lot of deadlifting stuff. But if we're looking at, say, like the bench press, for example, we need to do a pressing motion. If I was a powerlifter, obviously I'm going to use a bench press. But for any other goal, all we need to do is apply some kind of mechanical tension to my pressing muscles. And I'm going to use something that's the most comfortable, that requires a lot less, honestly, technique to be thinking about. Like a bench press can be a very technical exercise. As much as you say, I was just pressing a bar off your chest, it can be very technical, especially when you get to the realms of like pushing a heavy weight. And the amount of stimulus you may get from using a barbell versus dumbbells, the amount of fatigue you end up accruing on that, neurologically, but also maybe locally in the tissues themselves, because the positions you're forced into on a straight bar versus dumbbells or something that's a bit more freely, like even the Swiss bar, maybe a bit more joint friendly per se, that can help you get more stimulus with less fatigue, whether it's local in the joints or systemically. Now, I am kind of, I flip-flop a little bit because I say things like that, where I say, like, I personally avoid barbells, and I think for a lot of people, they are overusing and overemphasizing barbells. But I also always make sure that I emphasize now, because I didn't in the past, but say, you know what? The fact is, yes, there's going to be more joint stress and joint strain from a barbell versus a dumbbell because of how you're fixed in a certain plane. But is that bad? No. Okay, it is just a quality. And the body can adapt. The human body is resilient. So yes, there may be something less optimal from the alignment and the joint forces going from barbell to a dumbbell or gymnastics rings or whatever it is. But the reality is we can adapt. And as long as you're smart about your volume, your intensity, your load management, your recovery, there's no reason why you can't just do barbells for the rest of your life and make a ton of progress for whatever goal.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now I want to talk to you guys about Within You supplements. This is Mark's supplement line. And the amazing thing is Mark used to be 330 pounds. He was a fat guy. So obviously this stuff tastes really damn good. But another cool thing about Within You supplements is that none of these products are white labeled. Now what a lot of people do when they come out with their own supplement lines is they do something called white labeling. And white labeling, all that means is there's a supplement that's already out there. They take off the tag of that supplement, they put their name on it, and now it's their supplement line. Quite literally, there's nothing else like Within You supplements out there because Mark formulated these supplements with other individuals that he knows within the industry, like Joel Green, who we've had on this podcast. So you guys should check out Within You. We have amazing whey protein, electrolyte supplements, we have fasting gum, and many other things on the website. Andrew, how can they check it out?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
But it really just does come down to the preference and I guess where you're at in your journey as well. Maybe as you get more advanced, you need to be more mindful of things like fatigue and stimulus. It could also be preference based on maybe you've had a history of injuries from being probably not as mindful of your volume intensity, all that kind of stuff. So now you need to be a bit more prudent around managing the exercise around that. The big reason why people see me as the anti-barbell guy is because I'm not necessarily anti-barbell, but I want people to be thinking deeper about the fact that barbells are definitely probably overemphasized. For some reason, there are this golden thing, everyone has to do a barbell squat, everyone has to do a barbell bench press. And I think that's cool. I think it's a cool thing. I love those exercises. I love them to death. Like, that was what I used a lot when I was growing up as well. It's something I have a deep emotional attachment to. But it doesn't mean that everyone has to do it. And the reality is that the flip side to this is if we pushed out the idea that everybody has to barbell squat, barbell deadlift, barbell bench press, they're the king, the big three exercises, that's something that a lot of gym goers will connect with. But what about the people who really need our help, which is the Gen Pop, which is the people who aren't gym goers? People who don't have the strength, the mobility, the awareness to be able to do those exercises. You're telling them they have to do a barbell squat, or that should be the thing they work towards, otherwise they're a failure and they're not where they need to be with their training. That's very limiting, and it creates barriers. So this is why I say I flip-flop, because me also saying, or getting the message across that, hey, maybe barbells aren't the best thing all the time, that can also create a barrier. This is honestly an internal battle that I have in my head the entire time with the communication, because I want people to be thinking that, yes, barbells are cool, but they're not the be-all and end-all. But I also don't want to fearmonger around exercise. I don't want to say, hey, barbell's going to trash your elbows and trash your shoulders, because they're not necessarily going to do that. It's more the lack of recovery and the load management is going to fuck that up more than anything else. It's a very tricky thing to navigate, and I definitely go on either extreme occasionally, which is I'm learning to communicate that more effectively. But my big thing is trying to shift away the focus from, saying this is what you must do all the time, and saying, no, unless if you're a powerlifter or unless if you're a barbell athlete who has to use those certain exercises, you don't need to use a barbell for the adaptation of getting stronger, building muscle mass, getting more powerful, speed, sports performance, or whatever. Unfortunately, people think that's what you have to do. I want to get them out of that.
The other thing I like about just some of that notion is when you use dumbbells, it has its limitations in the sense that like you can only like grab so much weight, and then therefore you're most likely going to use a higher rep scheme. And we've talked about this on the show before, where something like dragging a sled, you could do like thousands of reps, but if you told me, hey, go in the gym and do 1,000 leg curls or something like that, it would be insane. It'd be brutal. But some exercises really lend themselves to kind of a higher rep range, and a person can most likely be safer for longer, maybe not wear themselves out quite as much by just simply choosing to utilize exercises where you're using more kettlebells and more dumbbells and things like that.
That's huge. That's a big thing that I really that I love to talk about.
So Power Project family, I hope you enjoyed this clip. We are on Discord and Reddit. We're trying to talk to you guys and build a community down there. So the links are in the bio. But remember, like, comment, subscribe, share this out with people so you can share the wealth of health. As cheesy as that fucking sounds. Peace.